Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the Doomcast this week. It's an unusual episode, and one I'm hoping to do more of. I'm going to be interviewing two guys who are comics that I know that also started their own podcast, Panel Picks podcast, focusing on indie comic books. Jeremy Plumb and Dan Bublitz Jr., both excellent comics in their own right, and I would say also very knowledgeable comic geeks. So welcome, guys. Thanks for doing this.
Oh, thanks for having us.
Thank you.
And of course, we're not together in one studio or one room because they're remote. I'm in Des Moines, Iowa, and Dan is in Loveland, Colorado, right?
Yep,
correct.
And Jeremy, you're Lincoln, Nebraska?
Omaha, yeah.
Omaha. So we are far-flung, but
three states in a row.
Yeah, we are this is the I-80 podcast. Welcome. Welcome to the saddest stretch of long and lonesome highway that Bob Seger decided to sing about it. But welcome, guys, and thanks for doing this.
Yeah, thanks for having us. I'm excited to do this.
Yeah, me too.
Heck yeah. So to start, tell me a little bit about Panel Picks podcast, the inspiration for it, and what you guys focus on, where people can find you.
All right, perfect. Well, so Panel Picks, that wasn't the original title of what the podcast was going to be, nor the format. Originally, it's an idea that I had for a while. I think the original title I was thinking was going to be Comic Shop Pop, but I wanted to kind of do like a comic book inspired news show where it was mostly highlighting what's coming out, like on New Comic Book Day, talking about some throwbacks and, comic shop related news, that kind of thing. And then I've been trying to find somebody to do it with me because, if you're a comedian and you have other podcasts and other things, it's hard to do too many things by yourself. So I wanted to have somebody to collaborate with. And I talked to a handful of people that seemed interested. And then one day Jeremy and I were talking about comics, and I was like, hey, because we text back and forth about comics all the time. And I was like, hey, so I have this idea, and he was all in. And so we collabed.
I took a couple comic friends of mine, Robert Davies and Brandon Cowhorn, to Colorado. And you asked, hey, let's get some lunch. And then you and I just immediately started talking about comics, and I went like, man, I miss podcasting a little bit, man, whatever, I guess I'll find something one day. And then we were leaving, and I know. And you said, I'm thinking about this podcast. And I was like, oh, don't bring me back in. And then I started just thinking in the car for hours. Like, no, we can fucking do this. We can do this.
Yeah.
I got so pumped.
Yeah, and then we just from there we kind of collabed on what it wanted to be and what it ended up. We came up with a new title, just Panel Picks, and basically the format of the show, it's pretty simple. We're creating like a user friendly guide to New Comic Book Day and to your local comic book shop. So we're like your pocket guide for New Comic Book Day. And what we do is we talk about what we read over the week, whether it was a new comics that we got in our pull box, or Jeremy's, he loves reading a lot of the throwbacks, so he's been reading a lot of throwback stuff. So we talk a little bit about that, and then we talk about some of the stuff that's coming out on New Comic Book Day. So our podcast comes out on Tuesdays, which is the day before New Comic Book Day. And so we just like highlight stuff that we think is going to be hot. Issue 2, because we're comic book themed podcast, so we're going issues, not episodes. Issue 2, we talked about Moon Man and Ultimate Black Panther coming out. Two comics that were like huge, like we called it.
Yeah, we're the reason they're sold out. Yeah, that's
we're taking the credit.
That's right.
Yeah. Kid Cudi, I'm waiting, kid.
Waiting for my cut.
I'm waiting for Kid Cudi. Yeah.
He's got to hook you up.
Yeah.
I picked that up. I didn't even realize that Kid Cudi was going to write a comic, and when I saw the title, I was like, "Oh, it's another Kyle Higgins Image story." I was like, "Whoa, wait a minute!" When I saw it, I that blew my mind. So I haven't read it yet. I have picked it up, It's
Nice.
in the
It's a good book.
astonishingly deep backlog of stuff. So
I feel your pain on that. I have a very deep backlog of comics I'm trying to catch up on. That was cool too because that comic also came out with he came out with a soundtrack for it.
Yep.
So he dropped like a day after New Comic Book Day, after that comic released, he dropped a new single for it. And
new single every issue.
Sounds like that's what's going to happen. So
every issue?
Yep.
That's what it sounds like.
Ryan Morrison, are you listening? I don't know if you were aware of that or not. Another good friend of mine that we used to stream Henchman of Asteroid M along with him and Brian Weber and my buddy TJ. We used to do that on the reg through COVID. We need to get back to that too. So what's it? Do you have anything that you're looking out for this? You don't have to spoil this week's episode at all. Anything you're looking forward to in particular?
Yeah,
books-wise,
I'm pretty excited for a couple comics that are on my pull list that are coming out. I've really been enjoying Masterpiece, which is kind of a heist. It's about a heist or putting together a heist team. And I'm really excited about that one. Haven't read it yet, but Deviant #4 comes out, so I'm excited about that. Even though I haven't read I had to go search for the first issue because my comic book shop ran out. So I was like, well, I'm not buying anymore until I know I can find a #1.
Yeah.
And then I finally did. So yeah, that's one that I was excited about. And then, because it is this week's new comic book day is on Valentine's Day. So there's some fun Valentine's Day stuff. Zenscope always does fun stuff for Valentine's Day. They have their lingerie pinup Valentine's Day special coming out, which that'll probably be an interesting book.
Yeah.
That'll have some good artwork in it.
I love the comic shop regulars who are like the guys that just get every like Sheena Queen of the Jungle and like weird just sexy cover variant. And you're just like, you must live for that. But I don't know if you know, but the internet is free now, guys. Whatever you're looking for. But I mean, if that's your jam,
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, and some of those stories they are really good. Zenscope has put out some really good comics. Obviously their artwork is more adulty, and they're taking the grim fairy tale characters and basically making them superheroes in a sense, like they're the main characters of these stories or whatever. And there's some really good writing on some of the books.
Yeah, I picked up a bunch of Sheena books at in a Hummel bundle, and I read a lot at work, and I can't read those yet. So I'm waiting for a good time to sit and read those books.
Yeah, it's interesting with Zenscope. I used to own a comic book shop. I don't know, 20 years ago now. It's been so long. Holy crap. But from 2003 till 2009, I had a comic book shop in Watertown, South Dakota. And when I had my shop, Zenscope had just started. So for me, I think it's really cool that they're still going. Because with indie comics, comic book publishers, you guys all know this, they pop up and then disappear.
Yeah.
So it's good to see that they're still around.
Yeah. Remember that indie publisher Amalgam? Whatever happened to them?
Yeah.
Yeah. Man. Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. So then the other thing that we try to do, we kind of rotate some other stuff on the podcast as well. We feature super indie creators. We got hit up when we started doing stuff on Threads and Blue Sky, a lot of indie comic book creators were very excited, and they started sending us some of their stuff. And so we've been, reading some of that stuff and then talking about that, giving them shout outs. And then we rotate, and sometimes we do comic book themed news, and issue 2, we talked about how Criminal, Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips' Criminal is getting a series on Amazon. So, that was some news that we talked about. I'm excited about it.
Yeah, that's going to be sick. I haven't seen a whole lot of news on that. Who is, any idea who's directing or producing that?
I know Ed Brubaker is involved. I think he's going to be show running too,
Yeah.
and producing. And I forget the other person's name. The other person was a fairly popular showrunner and had done some stuff because Ed Brubaker has done quite a bit of TV and television and movie stuff, which I didn't realize that until here recently.
Yeah, he'd written for a number of things. Like he was almost as prolific a TV writer as like Straczynski. It's weird how many of those folks cross over with different things, and how many people that are that are mainstream comic book artists get into like television development on art, like set design, art design, character design for stuff like that. Like a friend of mine here who is from Iowa City originally, Joey Vasquez. He did some of the art on Jed McKay's Black Cat series.
Cool.
With Saladin Ahmed on Ms. Marvel, and did Jackpot here recently.
Oh wow!
So he's been doing a lot of work for Marvel, and he's very young, and he's great at what he does. But he also got to work on a little bit on the Marvel Studios What If for the second season, doing some character design. Yeah, which is really neat. So eventually, I want to talk to him about what he can talk about with that. But really cool guy, really talented artist. So certainly, hopefully, see a lot more from him.
That's awesome.
That's
I
really
can
cool.
see how that, can kind of transfer over, because like if you think about it, a comic book is essentially just a script with a storyboard.
Yeah.
So like they're already basically writing scripts. Each issue is an episode essentially.
And I was a little when I was a kid, I really wanted to make comics. I still do, but I ended up like anytime they would show like the back end of a book and like here's what the script looks like. I would also study TV scripts as well, and they are functionally identical.
Right, comic book 2024 comedy goals. It's on the list that I'm looking at right now.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
That's kind of the way that like there's a circle, I think, for people who are both comedians or comedy fans. You eventually are like, I want to do that. And I think it's the same way with comics too, where it's just like, I love comics so much, I'd like to create them eventually.
Yep.
And you get, it ends up becoming a fun closed loop from fan to creator.
Yeah, and you see it more and more. I mean, look at Kevin Smith. He went from film and television, but then he started writing comics. So did
Patton Oswalt.
Patton Oswalt's got a book
Minor
out.
Threats is freaking amazing.
I know. I want to pick that up so bad.
So
I need to find a trade.
Did you pick up the other one? The
Alternates?
The Alternates from
Yes, it is much weirder.
Is it? I haven't read it yet. I picked it up. I just haven't it's in the backlog.
Yeah, it's got the same flavor, but it is definitely, it feels like, as much as Minor Threats feels like Patton Oswalt doing like a send up of like, hey, I love DC, but what if the D-list villains ended up banding together and had to take down Batman and the Justice League? This feels more like him doing an homage to Grant Morrison's Invisibles.
Oh, okay.
In a lot of ways.
Really
interesting.
Yeah, it's weird. It's really
okay. I'm in. That's cool. I like that.
I'll have to,
yeah. Wow.
It's a lot of fun.
But by the way, the books I'm looking forward to, just in generally, everything in the Ultimate Universe is so cool.
Yep. Yeah. And I mean, obviously, because they're selling out. I said that's this week. The second printing of Ultimate Spider-Man's coming out, so people will be happy about that.
Yeah, that and Cabinet from Image, which looks like just a fun little adventure book. It is about two teenagers that get sent to post-Cold War, which I don't know exactly what that time frame is. I'm assuming the 90s, and they have to collect magical furniture, including and it has something to do with a 17th century cabinet. And I go like, okay, yeah, let's go. That's comics, man. Let's go.
I'm down. What's the creative team on this?
I just had that pulled up. I need to. Whoop. Let's see. Oh, hi. He gets a little
the new star of the show.
Yeah, it's Billy, our 13-year-old cat, who does love reading comics with me. He is my buddy. Let's see here.
I love that.
Comic, yeah, Image. Thank you. So it's fun fact. If you guys write comics, cabinet comics, get a lot of cabinets. So that's fun. But
Okay.
the cabinet we have Sharara Ramadi. That's what I have here. And Jonathan Hart and David Elbertoff.
I don't know this.
Yeah,
Any of them?
those are the two writers, and Chania Ramadi. I don't know any of them actually, and that's what gets me excited. Like that's
Okay.
yeah.
Sometimes the premise gets you, and it's just like, I'm 100% on board.
Well, that's how I normally look up comics. I don't often look up a writer or illustrator. I go like, all right, what's the character? What's the scenario? Because when I got back into comics, I told Dan it's when Sonic the Hedgehog got me back into comics, and then I just kept looking back at Humble Bundles and get like these just, pay $20, get a bunch of Dynamite books or Image books you'd never heard of. Like that's how I got into Saga, into Rat Queens, into just a bunch of stuff I may not have known, and that's how I read a bunch of Image crime books. And so just not knowing a lot and just letting the book take over. Like I didn't know Hickman wrote We Stand Guard. I just love that book so much I would have read it more quickly if it was a Hickman book.
Yeah, I've discovered as of late, I've been getting more into, I used to be a person that just read comics and didn't really care who wrote and did the art. But now I've really been starting to pay attention because I've realized, even without knowing, just based on the books, I have like all these books from these creative teams. Like I have a bunch of books that Tim Seeley wrote and a bunch of books from Tony Fleeks and, and so on and so forth. And I'm like, oh man, maybe I should pay attention because I just did this without even realizing it.
Fair. Yeah.
Yeah. You kind of fall into it. And that kind of leads me into the other half of what I was going to see if we could do here for this episode, which I want to start talking with people about some of their favorite runs of a single creative team or a single writer or artist on any given book. Doesn't have to be one that I'm necessarily familiar with. If it is one that I am, great. If not, I want to hear about it. I want to know, because that's kind of another way that you get into great comics is somebody else is just like, no. This has to be something that you read.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. That actually happened between us. We were hanging out at a comedy festival, Dan and I, and we started talking about comics. And I went and picked up some books he suggested.
That was in North Carolina.
Yep.
With Will. Yeah.
Yep.
That's.
I bought Cobra Commander on air because Dan said you need to read Cobra Commander. Yeah. I was like, all right.
That was such a good book.
I'm clearly a fan from way back, but Duke and Cobra Commander and that whole Energon universe is driving me nuts. But okay, so let me put it to you, Dan Bublitz. If you had to pick, just it doesn't even have to be a favorite. What's the run?
The run that I'm gonna choose for this, because there's a lot of runs that I would like to choose, but I'm gonna actually go. So my favorite creative team is Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips. That is how I got back into comics, was through their series Criminal. That's not my pick. The pick is Reckless. I love the Reckless run. It right now, as it stands, there's 5 books. Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips kind of changed how they release comics. They used to, do the single issues every month, and now they're doing graphic novels, and they're releasing them ever so often. Like this year, not this year, but 2023, I think they released 2 graphic novels when it was all said and done, maybe 3. But Reckless it was just a great story because it's about this fixer from it's like the late 70s, early 80s, if memory serves me right. It's been a while since I read it. But he owns like this old movie theater that, and he has like, that's basically the front of what they do. I mean, he's kind of like a PI, but more on the fixing of things. And he has this young assistant that kind of runs the theater for him and also books the jobs that he ends up taking ultimately. And like I said, there's five books in the run, and each one is kind of it's a different story. But it's good because it's a graphic novel, and that's what I like about it. So it's like a long book.
So it's like an episodic, because I haven't picked this up yet, and I need to, because anything Brubaker and Phillips is still on my radar. I usually get I think what was the one I literally have it here. Night Fever.
That was so good. That was one of the books that came out this year.
It's just sitting here at my. I gotta pick it up, or I gotta actually finish reading it.
Oh, I liked it. I thought that was a really good one. That's a book where it's not their typical crime per se, but there's still crime involved, and it was a fun story.
So has Reckless wrapped? Is it finished?
That I don't know, because they have been doing other stuff, because they just came in December. Where the Body Was just came out, and I just read that last week finally, and that was another. There's a lot of people that weren't fans of that book because it wasn't like their traditional. I think it's because it's not their traditional style per se, but I liked it because what they did, each chapter of the book was a different character in the story telling their kind of side of the story, and it kind of jumps around throughout.
Rashomon action?
Yeah. So, yeah, it was pretty good. I enjoyed it. Again, I could be biased because Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips are my team. But Reckless, there's 5 books right now. I don't know for sure if it's over. I would like to see another book because I thought it was a great story. But, you've got just a Reckless, which was the first one that came out, then Friend of the Devil, Destroy All Monsters, The Ghost in You, and Follow Me Down. And, and there's a little bit of overlap throughout, the different books or whatever with some of the characters and stuff. But for the most part, each book is its own story and kind of its own case, I guess you could say.
Nice. Are all of those movie titles also? Is that a tie-in?
Maybe it is. It could very well be. You know what? I think you're right. I think those are movie titles. I didn't even.
I just wonder if that, like, man, now this has me intrigued.
Now I'm gonna have to look that up now, because I wonder if you're right on that. Because that would be
monsters. I was like, is Godzilla involved?
That would be.
Oh wow! I didn't realize. Yeah, that is a Godzilla film. Yeah.
Yeah, because you know what, that would make sense since he owns a movie theater.
Yeah.
That's wow. I'm gonna have to go look at that, because I'm like, whoa, that's a great little add-on. Like that. Yeah, just like that's a great Easter egg that just totally right over my head.
Because that's one of my favorite parts of The Wicked and the Divine. That you get you get White Duke David Bowie, you get Prince, you get Glenn Danzig, you get like so many different references, and the other thing that I will always never not mention about The Wicked and the Divine is that Kieran Gillen and Jamie McKelvey were on to something, because they almost predicted the passing of Prince and Bowie in real time. Like they were months away. Like they had probably written the issues before they passed.
Oh wow!
Because they came out in 2016, or like right before, just before they passed. I don't know. It was kind of wild.
Well, there's also JoJo's Bizarre Adventures with AC/DC, Cars, Green Day.
Now you have Alice Cooper has a comic out now too. Just Alice Cooper.
But a lot of the stands are named off of bands or songs.
Yeah. I also love that. Like, I don't know how far. I haven't watched all of JoJo, but like most of the episodes for a while, and with the Yes Roundabout.
Yep.
Like the silliest. I can't hear that anymore.
That's what got me into vinyl, because I that's what got me into Yes, because I found an old bootleg Yes album that had Roundabout on it. I can't and got me super into it because like, oh, that's the JoJo song, and I lost my mind.
That's it came on outside of a gas station once, and I was like, Dio? Okay, so let's see here. So Reckless, I have to pick up and have to read. So thank you for that.
Yep.
Jeremy, do you have a run to pitch?
I'm pretty sure you've already read it, given the name and the background image.
Okay.
But man, Ryan North's run on Fantastic Four is really, really good.
Yeah, it really is.
Yep, I wasn't like I knew some of Fantastic Four before, a couple years ago. Like I'd read some stuff, and it always was a little daunting. Then I read Dan Slott's run, and you know what? I like Dan Slott's run. Not everyone did. The Reckoning War was maybe a little. I didn't like the ending of Reckoning War. It was a little rush. And I was like, I like this. I really do. I teared up on the wedding of the Thing, and I was like, oh, this is good. And then Ryan North came in. And if you love early Star Trek or early Twilight Zone, like just kind of a pulpy sci-fi with a lot of heart, because one thing Ryan North loves, he loves getting in the weeds of things. I'm just reading Squirrel Girl as well, and he's into the weeds on binary and computer science.
I'm laughing because Jeremy, since we started our podcast, has been trying to get me to read Squirrel Girl.
Really good. Really good.
And now people are commenting on our YouTube channel that I need to read it too.
Really good. But no, Ryan North loves science fiction here. Like, there's a whole issue about, like, what if a microorganism from a different dimension came in and had no predators? Yes. What would that mean for our environment? And I go like, yeah. Or there's a app that comes alive, and I'm not going to say anything, but I was emotionally wrecked. I put the book down, and I just had to stare for a minute, and it was a very heartfelt, just beautiful book. And, like, little details. Like, there's a whole book about... Oh, no. Now I'm forgetting the Thing's wife's name.
Alicia Masters.
Alicia, thank you. Yeah. From her perspective, talking about, like, here's how I read comics. And here's, her on this adventure. And little details. Like, hey, did you know Sue Richards and... Mr. Fantastic speak in Braille by running their hands across each other with her force field and his just malleability. Like, I love that stuff. It's so heartfelt. It's so sci-fi. It's a beautiful book that I get excited for every week.
No, yeah. I absolutely love it. Actually, as a matter of fact, you'll appreciate this, but let's see here.
Yeah!
That's okay. Dio, dude.
What makes it even cooler is, for some people, if you've ever been on the internet, you've seen the Dino comics, which is the same 4 panels every day for 20 years, and it's a different book, or it's a different story, or it's a different comic.
Yeah,
that's Ryan North.
What?
He's Dinosaur Comics.
I didn't realize that at all.
Yes. So that's made it doubly cool. Is like, okay,
damn.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
I already had respect, but like the respect has deepened. That's amazing.
It is so cool. And also, side note, sometimes I'm hit and miss on Alex Ross covers. Like, I love them technically, but sometimes they get a little real stiff. Not these books. You can tell he really loves Fantastic Four, and he loves 1950s sci-fi.
He really is. I feel like Alex Ross is one of those people who, everybody starts off a fan, right? But like he his enthusiasm for it never really waned. Like this, he likes the stuff he likes so much, and he likes.
Yeah.
It's also he's such a goon in some ways. Like a lot of his Justice League stuff, like he uses himself as a model.
Yeah.
Oh wow!
He uses the same guy for Superman for 30 years, which is great. But you can tell that's the same guy. Yeah.
Oh, hang on. You got a kitty. I got a come here.
Yep.
No, we got it.
Here we go.
Yep.
Here we go.
I feel like I need to go find mine.
Well,
It's
that dog that you heard
Oh, this
barking
is a
was my
dog.
bulldog. What's up at my pit bull, Nova?
That's Bob.
Oh,
That's Bob.
This is Billy.
Bob Reynolds. Power of 1,000 exploding treats.
Oh.
All right, go on, Bob.
Okay.
Go on. Okay.
I'm always a fan of podcasts getting interrupted by animals.
Yeah.
Accidental cats or dogs are absolutely okay here for sure.
Yeah.
Um,
But yeah,
Man.
best book. The first time Doom shows up in that run,
yeah.
best thing. It's comic dumb and silly and goofy, but the right level of pettiness for what Doctor Doom is. It is I will say it, and it's a big sweep. Besides the Ultimate stuff, it is the best ongoing Marvel book.
Oh wow.
Wow.
It's
That's very
fantastic.
high praise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I don't read a lot of superhero comic books, so I'm
not a
more on the
superhero
indie.
book,
But I will say
promise.
this. But I will no. I was just gonna say this. Even not knowing, like, just knowing my limited knowledge of the Fantastic Four, I can say this. I think Doctor Doom is one of the best comic book villains.
Is
Oh yeah.
yeah.
I think one of the he's in the top 5 of comic book villains.
It's
So
it's
good.
the whole Stan Lee story that he would repeat all the time, where he's like, Doctor Doom isn't a criminal. You can walk out on the street and say, I want to take over the world, because you believe it would be better if you were running it.
Yeah.
And that's not illegal. That's not, but then at the same time, like, you build a death ray, or,
Or do you send the thing back in time and make him Blackbeard?
or, in Mark Miller's run, you spend 1 billion years learning magic so you can send the Maquis of Death back in time after he sent you back to get eaten by a shark. I don't know. It's very silly.
Yeah.
But that's why I love Fantastic Four, is because it's peak silliness.
Yeah. But also peak, just love. I know people don't like, why do you like, I love Superman. Superman's one of my favorite heroes out there.
Yeah.
And I like the Fantastic Four. And I like certain books of Spidey. Because, I love hope. And I love love. And I love just, yeah.
Our little Jeremy is a hopeless romantic.
Yes, I am.
Dude, I'm the same way. That's what I was like. I cannot stand people who have nihilistic dark takes on Superman, because that's not the character at all. It is supposed to be hopeful, because the power for Superman is not augmented Kryptonian DNA. It's universal compassion and hope that can't be broken. That's the power. Because Zod has the same powers. Whatever, Doomsday. I just take your pick. It's easier to fall into nihilism. It's way harder to keep that hope up.
Yeah.
So
Superman Up and Away is a great example of that. Hey, why did you save this? She's not a princess. She's not special. Yeah, but she's somebody.
Yeah.
And that's important. And that's why I love, and Fantastic Four is you know what? It's about family. And I know that sounds like a meme, but it's just, I love you so
That
much.
sounds like a meme.
Let's just do this. And I was like, yeah.
It's great. And there's so many times that things get wrapped up believably and plausibly by the fact that they're such a connected family unit.
Yeah.
that things just work out.
Yeah.
You mentioned Dan Slott's run. Just to go off on a tangent, I didn't mind the whole Spire arc, and I didn't mind Sky, Johnny's
wife,
fiance and / wife and everything. I actually kind of felt bad that they wrote her out. I
didn't like how they ended that one. Yeah.
But we did get. I mean, there were positives from that. We got Nikki and Joe Ben. I thought those are great additions. Making Ben Grimm a dad. is
That was amazing.
yeah, it's great.
So good.
By all means.
Yeah, this is a bold move. I was never a big Franklin Richard fan, so Dan Slott's take on Ben Richard, just making him a teenager and like he's kind of moody, and let's teach him how to drive. The I want to be a mutant stuff was a little weird, but
The back and forth on that annoyed me, and I think that was Marvel editorial actually.
oh yeah,
It was just dumb in my opinion.
yep. It's just beautiful. Honestly, it's good. And if you're a new reader and you go like, oh, 17 issues, that's a lot. Honestly, these issues kind of like your main storyline kind of ends after two. Like the main story goes after like 2 or 3 issues at a time. They're very easy to read.
Easy to get those trades too.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Well, and to circle back to North's run, like that is very accessible because the jumping on point, like you don't really have to know any deep Fantastic Four lore to jump into issue 1 of the Ryan North run.
Yeah.
At all.
Yeah. Yep.
And I think it basically gives you like the first 4 issues focus on individual characters.
So good. Yeah.
Yeah. You get a primer basically, more or less. So it really does a job of establishing like here's what the characters are, here's who they are all about, and then it shifts you into that whole this is what their dynamic is like, and then you get was it the annual or which
I didn't read the annual yet. Yeah,
because there was one issue where they had like Doom going back in time and like perpetually undoing stuff and ending up just as he always is, hoisting his own petard. I love that.
Yeah.
Anyway.
There's also, quickly, because I know we're going to try and keep it short, Ryan North loves playing with comic format, and that's what gets me excited when people play with the format of comics, and it gets me excited in my writer brain. And I read Fantastic Four digitally. So in that first 4 issues, there's a thing, an Alicia primer, that does a thing where the art, and I'll spoil it a little bit, it's a Groundhog's Day situation, where the writing and the art repeat itself. And for a second, because comicsology is great and horrible, I thought the app glitched out, and I had to go check. It's like, oh, I must have restarted for some reason. And I was like, nope, we're moving forward. Oh, wow. And I don't get got very easy, but I got pretty well.
That's always a little bit of magic. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. Man, good stuff. Definitely 2 solid runs to follow up on if you haven't. I'm definitely going to go and jump on Reckless here as soon as I can. And of course continue with Fantastic Four. So, guys, as we wrap up, where can people find you, and what else do you do that you want to plug?
Well, I'm a stand-up comedian as well, so you can always go to my website, debubcomedy.com. That's where I put all my dates. Obviously, we have the Panel Picks podcast. It comes out every Tuesday. And you can find that we're on all social media at Panel Picks Pod. And then I have a podcast called The Art of Bombing, which Dan did a live version of it.
Yes.
I'm going to have to get him back to just do a regular one-on-one as well. But you can check that out everywhere you get podcasts. That comes out on Wednesdays.
Sick.
And I'm a stand-up too. I'm mostly doing a lot of Omaha stuff, but if you would like my website, see clips of me and whatnot, it is jeremyplumbcomedy.com, or just Plumb Jeremy on all the social medias. It's not Twitter. And
Nice.
Coming up, I have panel picks every Tuesday, and I don't know when this episode's going live.
Probably Wednesday this week.
Wednesday this week. All right. Well, next weekend, the 23rd through 25th, I'm in Kansas City, doing a couple of Don't Tells at Barrel of the Bottoms on Friday and Saturday, and I'm on the Bird Theater.
That's fun,
as well on Friday. Yeah.
Nice.
And Knuckleheads on Sunday.
Dang. Okay.
Yeah.
You got like
just
a
killing it.
very full weekend there.
I'll be in Denver.
Yeah.
Sick. Yeah, I will be down. I'll actually be down in KC over Planet Comic Con.
Oh, nice.
Mostly because I have to. I got a bunch of stuff for Mark Waid and Kevin Eastman, so I got to do that. So.
Oh, wow. By the way, what comic shop should I go to in KC? Since you've been to KC.
Gosh, the only ones I haven't hit a lot of shops there. The only one that I know is Exile, I think.
Okay.
That's in like, I want to say that's in like Overland Park. So I don't know if it technically counts as like KC centric, but
I say you hit as many as you can.
That's trying.
Just that's one of my favorite things to do. Actually, is just walk around. Like when we were in North Carolina, I walked down with Diana Graham and Dana to just a random comic book shop and picked up a bunch of OG X-Men cover. I think I got like X-Men 200 also with the Magneto M costume thing out there. Anyway, I
bought so many comics and toys when I was out in North Carolina that I had to ship them home in a box.
What?
I couldn't even. I didn't have room in my carry-on. I got introduced to Ollie's, which cheap toys, and then my friend Will, who was also at the festival and lives out in North Carolina, he took me to all these comic book shops, and we went. Like he took me to this flea market type place where they basically the guy doesn't care about modern comics. It's pretty much just silver and gold age. So like he just takes these big boxes, long boxes of comics, and just sells them for $1 a piece. And I just like picked like you can go like $1 a piece, or it's like 30 for $25, and like 100, maybe 150 for a whole box or something. Yeah. So
Jesus.
He took me there, and I was just like stacks.
I need to look up flights back to North Carolina. Actually.
Me too, I guess. I gotta head back to North Carolina.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to ask Will what the name of that place was.
Oh.
I need to go back to that place just because we had other things to do. We didn't get to spend like a ton of time looking, and it's one of those scenarios where they're not organized. You know what I mean? Like you have to go dig. Like you might find some runs together or some issues together, but then you might find part of it in another box. So it's not like, so you have to dig. So we didn't have enough time to really dig.
I was walking around in Louisville, and I went to like one of those, just an antique store, and they had big pull boxes where everything was like $1 or $2. And I saw like almost an entire run, like 50-issue run of like X-Force. But some of it was missing, and I was just going to drop the whole thing. But I ended up picking up IDW's Dick Tracy for like $4.
Nice. I ended up. That's how I got Vendetta. I got the full run. Yeah, just $1 a piece. I was like,
every once in a while. I don't know if you have half price books is the thing that's in a lot of cities. I don't know if there's. When I was at the half price books in Des Moines once, I just started thumbing through, and I got through the first 12 issues of the original X Factor with the first appearance of Apocalypse and all of that, and just snagged that. I think I snagged a first issue of New Mutants once.
Oh wow!
Like you never know. Anytime there's a long box of stuff that it's just like these are $1, it is at the very least worth your time to take 5 minutes and thumb through.
Oh, absolutely. Yep. That's how when I was in North Carolina, part of the reason I bought so many comics is because I found most of the fade out single issues. So I had the big book already, but I was like, oh man, single issues, I'm totally bought for $1 a piece. I'm in. Yep. And so then I just had to go find like 3 issues when I got back, but I got pretty much the whole run, $1 a piece.
My favorite thing comic book stores have been doing, and it's newer, like Legends does at my shop, is they'll just grab all the singles, tape them up in a bundle, and drop it.
Yeah.
And this is a new thing for me. That's how I got Jurassic League and Tarzan versus the Predator.
I did that in Colorado Springs. I bought a bundle of comics, and then I left them in the green room at the comedy club.
No.
Oh no, I did it on purpose. I went through and I checked. There was nothing in there that really piqued my interest, and I was like, whatever. I just left them.
Nice. And that's how I ended up getting.
Pass it on.
I'm sorry. No, that's a great thing to do. You're a saint to pass on comics like that. That's a great thing. And I always love it. Well, guys, thank you again for doing this. I'm sure everybody, please go follow and listen to Panel Picks podcast with Dan and Jeremy here. And I appreciate having you guys on. Next time you're putting a run together or you come through Iowa, hit me up. We'll do what we can to get you on something here. So I appreciate you both. Thanks again for doing it. Take care, everybody watching at home, and have a wonderful week.